Hello, and today we're going to be talking about Charles Lightoller, the highest ranking officer to survive the wreck of the Titanic. Uh, Charles Lightoller was the second officer on the ship, and when the Titanic sank on April 15th, 1912, as after it struck the iceberg, the Titanic's captain, Captain Edward Smith, gave the order to evacuate, and gave the order to evacuate women and children first, which is a long-standing naval convention, which is not really based on any actual maritime law, but however, it is a long-standing precedence. The different officers involved in the evacuation followed that principle to varying degrees. Lightoller was one of the more extreme. He took it very literally, quite literally not allowing any men to evacuate until after women and children had, other than men who were needed to actually man the boats themselves. Because of this, the evacuation took longer than it should have, and it is believed that more people would have been saved had this guideline been followed less strictly. Lightoller then went down with the ship, or at least he would have, had something very strange not happened. As the ship was going down, Lightoller was sucked up against a grate and was being pulled down with the ship. However, as it was going down, the boiler exploded, and this caused a large blast of hot air to surge up through that grate, propelling Lightoller away from the wreckage. Because of this, he did manage to survive. Lightoller later served in World War I. He was twice decorated for gallantry. He was the commander of a destroyer called the HMS Gary. The HMS Gary at one point rammed and sank a German U-boat. The captain of the U-boat would later claim that Lightoller's men had killed many of the surviving Germans who were attempting to surrender. These reports and accusations were never formally substantiated, and the actual facts of the situation are somewhat subject to debate. However, in his memoirs later, Lightoller said that he refused to accept the hands-up business. You can interpret that as you will. However, that was not where Lightoller's story ends. During World War II, when Lightoller was retired, he aided in the evacuation of Dunkirk. In 1940, British, French, and Belgian troops were surrounded by Germans for 6 weeks during the Battle of France. They were surrounded. There was nowhere to go but the sea, and so a sort of Hail Mary plan was set up to evacuate the forces. Many small privately owned vessels were forcefully assimilated into the British forces in order to help with this evacuation. In order to, they would bring these little ships in, load up as many people as they could, then bring them out to the larger naval vessels that were out at sea. Lightoller, instead of letting his ship be commandeered in this fashion, decided to volunteer him, and he took his ship himself and participated in the 8-day evacuation of the forces at Dunkirk. Over those 8-day period, 338,226 troops were evacuated from Dunkirk successfully. Of those, Lightoller himself, with his personal yacht, rescued 127 British troops. And so, Charles Lightoller's life is an interesting mixed bag, but he certainly had an impact on history, however you look at it. And his participation in the evacuation of Dunkirk is something that many people have to be thankful for. So I hope you found that interesting. I did, and thanks for watching. Until next time, stay spooky.